Hi, my name is John Maddox. I used to be one of the top deadlifters in the country in the 220-pound class. No matter how strange that sounds. And I also used to work out with Mike Israetel at one time. The reason why I'm doing this video isn't specific because I used to work out with Mike Israetel. It's because Mike Israetel seems to, for some reason, not like Mike Mentzer. And what's going to be interesting as I continue to put videos out on my channel, I'm going to explain to you how I ended up training. I ended up figuring out almost identical to what Mike Mentzer figured out. I'm a drug-free athlete. I've been drug tested many times. My last one in 2009 should still be on the USAPL website if the website still goes back to 2009. So I had eighth biggest deadlift in the country in 1998. I know it's a long time ago, prior to YouTube. And right now, as I'm sitting here in my chair, I can deadlift 800 pounds. And I'm going to be 58 years old here in a couple weeks. So, and I train. I don't train like I train because I heard of Mike Israetel. I, as a drug-free athlete, figured out that this was the optimal way for me to train. So I do watch a lot of stuff that Mike puts out. I even saw him when he first put a video out when he was in his empty garage before he had any cars. And he kind of put it out there. Look, I'm a fitness influencer and I'm not making any money yet. So, but obviously things have changed for him since then. I mean, back in the day, Mike was a great guy. I have no issues with Mike. He trained with some guy that used to call him Yuri. I know Yuri's not his real name, but I ran into him a couple years ago at the Royal Oak Gym. That's where I train in Royal Oak, Michigan. Um, and I move a lot of very heavy weights. I mean, if I could deadlift 800 pounds, and at my age, I'm probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, who can do it. I'm going to knock it out in the meet here later this year. But I've learned that the Mike Mentzer training method, which what I've developed starting in 1990 is almost identical. All right. And so where I think what happens with Mike Israetel is I think he's an intellectual guy and he wants to, bring supposedly science to, strength athletics. Just think about Louis Simmons, some of the stuff that he was doing before people went down there and, started, copying a lot of his stuff with chains and bands and, a lot of the stuff that they were doing, box squats. At one time, people said the same thing that Mike Israetel is saying about Mike Mentzer, right? And then they realized, holy crap, this shit does work. I've never been a big proponent of the bands or the chains. To me, they're partials. And I'll get into a video about how you select exercises to make sure you're not overtraining. All right. Because the key when you're a drug-free athlete is not to overtrain. All right. Mike Israetel is enhanced, right? What do they call it now? Gear. I used to do powerlifting when there was real gear, the shit you'd put on. It was so goddamn tight, it would make you couldn't even breathe. So I only did deadlift meets. I couldn't put up with the squat suits and especially the bench shirts. Oh my God, those things were horrible. And especially early on, they were very difficult. You needed two people to get them on you. And when you took them off, it ripped all your skin off. To me, it wasn't worth the effort. So, but I did win 7 national deadlifting titles. I had the 8th biggest deadlift. I missed the 3rd biggest deadlift. And this is in the country, right? Powerlifting USA magazine used to keep track of the lifts of everybody, whether you're clean or not. And so there's 4 drug-free deadlifters to go to my channel. I have the top 10 list from 1998 of what all the lifts were done that year. I out deadlifted everyone in Michigan, which is pretty cool to say. So I had the 3rd biggest drug-tested deadlift that year. I missed 760, which would have been the 2nd biggest drug-tested deadlift that year and the 2nd biggest drug-tested deadlift ever in the USAPL up until that point in time. So I was and I tore a rotator cuff and I disappeared for 5 years. And so when I popped back in the gym around 2003 is when I actually met Mike Israetel. So the thing that when you're looking at something like what Mike Mentzer does is his goal, right? And I don't disagree with Mike Israetel when he talks about, reps. I think reps is a personal thing depending on what people want to achieve. Obviously, higher reps, they tend to work more your tendon strength and stuff like that, where low reps tend to work more on strength. So a combination of both of those can help. I mean, because even in my training, even though I will peak up to a top single, right? When I go to do my assistants, I may do reps. I may not do reps. I may do singles. As I get older, And I think that's one of the things too. I don't think Mike Israetel looks at the older athletes. I don't know how anyone can get on YouTube and try to say there's only one way for everybody. There isn't only one way. There's many different ways. And so only thing I know is by 1990, I realized that overtraining for the drug-free athlete was the biggest thing you had to be concerned about. And every time I hear these Mike Mentzer clips now that are on YouTube Shorts, I don't know who put them out there, but they're really great information. I like them. So obviously Mike Israetel doesn't like them. So, but I like them because I'm going, holy shit, this guy sounds just like me. I mean, I've learned a long time ago, you don't need to do 5 sets of the same weight. Or for example, let's say I peak up. I'll give you an example from my last bench workout. I peaked up to say the 330 pounds. I'm not the greatest bencher. All right. So I'm someone who had scoliosis. I had surgery when I was 15 years old. I wore a body cast for a year. They fused the majority of my spine. And I have flexibility issues. So in the bench, I can't position my chest optimally, to maximize my leverages, so I have to, I got long arms, because I'm a taller person. So yeah, I have to move the weight a long way, and that impacts the amount that you can lift. So, so let's say I go up to, 330 pounds, right? And that's a single. And right now I'm not quite getting that, the most I've done so far, within the last year is 325 pounds. So I take 330 down, right? And then I'll get a little bit of assistance with my trainer, who is Art Little, as someone actually knows Mike Mentzer as well. He's known Mike Israetel since Mike has been in high school. And he has a much longer history with Mike than I do. And then what I do is, since now I've peaked up, because you need to warm up to get to what this max is. If you're going, you just can't jump to it. And that's one of the things I want to clarify with people. All right, I think a lot of people misunderstand it with what Mike's doing and what I do. You still have to do your sets and work your way up. So I like to do something pretty similar to what Dave Tate talks about. If you go on his channel, well, he'll put the quarter on, then he'll put a quarter on, then he'll put a quarter on. It just makes it easier. We don't have to take the 45 down, then, put another 45 on, and then put a quarter, then take, and keep doing stuff like that. It's just easier just to keep adding quarters while you do your entire workout. So, but then I'll do a set of boards. But since I'm already warmed up, why do I need to do a whole bunch of board sets to get to my peak board set again? I don't. I just need to do one set. And if for some reason that set's easy, I'll go up a little heavier and do another one. All right. And then I'll go over the incline press, because I like to do the inclines, right? So, and I'll go over there and I'll do one set. Sometimes I'll do 2. So let's say I really did a gut buster set. Then I will go over to my next exercise. I might do a lighter set just to let my body recuperate a little bit. Then I'll hit that max out set. But once you do that max set, then the key is to recuperate afterwards, right? The key is not to sit there and do set after rep after rep after rep. And one of the things I agree with Mike with too is, if you're doing a lot of volume, let's say, for example, Arnold's old training style, which Mike actually comments on, is that if you train for 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, if it wasn't for the steroids that those guys were on, they would be losing weight because they'd be doing way too much work. So I only train twice a week. I train twice a week and I can deadlift 800 pounds. All right. I did squat 700. It was a little high. That was when I was 55. That was a couple of years ago. I'm working back up to that. I had an injury in between that lasted about 16 months. And so now I'm back. I've been screwing around trying different squat stances, and I've figured out exactly what I need to do. And I'm going to start concentrating on that. So my goal is to, squat over 700 with no knee wraps at a meet, hopefully, later this year. So I would love to still try to total 2,000 pounds as a drug-free old man, right? And I want to pull, just 800 pounds is cool, but I want to do way over 800 pounds. So, but the reason why I'm getting stronger at my age is I don't listen to all the nonsense that's out there. There's people literally out there telling you to overtrain, and I believe they tell you to overtrain because they want to sell you supplements, all right? You don't need to do a bunch of crazy sets, a bunch of crazy reps. You don't need to do all these weird exercises. So what I'm going to do when with my next video, I'm going to give you a case analysis. So one of the guys that I used to train with for a long time, named Craig Terry, one of the greatest deadlifts ever to come out of Michigan. Like I said, I was a pretty damn good deadlift to come out of Michigan too. When you win 7 national deadlifting titles, you're pretty good. And he and I used to train together for 20 plus years. So I used to be an 85-pound deficit to him in the deadlift when I started training with him. And I've always trained like I do, where he wouldn't train like I do. I mean, I even take a week off. So when I tell you I train 2 days a week, All right, after 3 or 4 weeks, if I can feel that my body is tired, I will take an entire week off. If you listen to Mike, I don't mess up and say the wrong Mike, but if you listen to Mike Mentzer, he says, yeah, you take that week off, and what do? You come back stronger. You don't lose anything. And I've learned that going all the way back to 1990. And so I used to train, a squat day separate from my deadlift day, right? And then I'd have an upper body day. And so what I learned back then was what's called a 10-day week. And how a 10-day week works is you have 3 days that you work out, but you have 4 different workouts. So say heavy squats, right? Then you're gonna have your bench workout. Then you're gonna have your deadlift workout with whatever leg assistance that you have. And then you're gonna have another upper body workout, which obviously you can bench or do other assistance type stuff. And then you start it over again. And when you do that, all the workouts change every week, right? But you've extended your 7-day week to a 10-day week, which helps you to recuperate. So if I train hard twice a week, right? That's all I train, because I've combined my squat and deadlift together to give me 7 days in between each workout. Everything's about recuperation, right? I've learned this. Everything's about making sure I get, right, what I put into it, right? I measure that first before I worry about should I be doing an extra set or this set or that set or whatever. It's like I peak up, I get used to handling the weight, and then I recuperate to make sure I capture what I did. And like I said, I'm doing 800 pounds, and I've had 3 surgeries since I turned the age of 50. I had my tricep done, right? That was 2021. And I thought that was the only surgery I was going to get done. And then later that year, I ended up screwing up the meniscus in my knee. I had to get that fixed. This is after squatting 700 pounds. It was a little high. I would have made it out of me, but dude, I'm 55 years old squatting 700 pounds. All right, with no knee wraps. All right, I also walked it out. I'm a wide stance squatter because of having a lack of flexibility in my spine. I have to go wider. So, but yeah, so here I am. I'm squatting 700. Right, I'm doing a lot of crazy stuff, and but then later that year I tore the meniscus in my knee, so I had to get that surgery done, and I got a hernia. So I ended up having 3 surgeries since turning the age of 50, and then I had the injury where a piece of gym equipment malfunctioned. That took me out for 16 months. And I'm just on the other side of that right now. So, but injuries aside, training like I do allows you to get strong extremely fast. And it's almost, when I hear Mike Mentzer talk, you can talk to Art Little, who trains with me, who I've known for 25 years. I sound exactly like Mike Mentzer. So whenever I forward a video to him, I always ask him, I go, who does this guy sound like? He'll text me back. He says, it sounds like John Maddox. So I've learned to do the same things that he's doing. And I'm 58 years old. Well, in a couple of weeks, I'll be 58 years old. And I can deadlift 800 pounds. All right. How many 58-year-olds do you know that go through 3 surgeries and you have another injury happen and can deadlift 800 pounds at the age of 58? All right. The reason why I can do it is I'm not overtraining, and I go in and I hit exactly what I need to do, and I make sure it recuperates and it grows before I hit it again. And if I hit it super hard within a 3-week period, then I take my week off. Like this last 3 weeks, right? This week I'm off because I hit it so hard over those 3 weeks, I have to take this week off. So, and then there was an interview that Mike Israetel did with Dave Tate, and they were talking about this, what happens when you train for 4 days? What do you do that 5th week? I even tried emailing his website, Renaissance Periodization. They didn't even respond to me. So, and I said, what you do is you take the damn week off. And then what you do is you reset again and you hit it again, right? And then you take your week off and you hit it again. And then you take your week off and you hit it again. But your goal is to make sure you're recuperating and growing and getting stronger. It's not to keep putting set over set over set over set after set without having any way of finding out if you're actually getting where you need to go. All right, I think what happens sometimes with people who are on gear is that gear hides the fact. If it wasn't for you being on gear, you would not be recuperating, right? So for the drug-free athlete, I'm telling you, high-intensity training works. All right, everyone's got to kind of customize it. Like I said, if you want to do your top set, where I like singles now because I'm getting older, it's just easier on my joints. For me, well, if you want to do 8s, right? Or if you want to do 30s or 20s, whatever reps that you want to do, that's up to you. Because sometimes you don't know how many reps you're going to do, right? You might, so for example, on assistance for something. So let's say I go balls out on my squat. And then what I like to do after I do my, I start off with box squats, and then I switch to my regular squats. All right. And then I'll do a partial squat, and then I'll do a negative squat. All right. And to do a negative, you got to set the pins exactly where you want to bring the weight down to. But that negative is what gives me the majority of what I need out of that workout. It's not just moving some weight. It's making sure I get those muscles taxed as much as possible to make sure I'm stimulating them. All right. And then I make sure I recuperate them. All right. And so we're going to get into this into more detail as we keep posting videos. Because what I understand from talking to people at the gym, most people are brainwashed because of Joe Weider and all these guys before them. All right. And everybody thinks, oh, yeah, I got to do all these different exercises. I got to do all these different reps. I got to do all these different sets. And the only thing you're doing is overtraining. So there's an old joke that I used to have. Look, my friend Al is here. Let's go do everything all over again. Well, that doesn't work. All right. You need to train smart. You need to stimulate the muscle, and then you got to make that muscle recuperate. All right. And so if you hit it hard enough during the 3 weeks, then you take your week off. I never go over 4 weeks without taking a week off, ever. I've never done it. Even back, started in 1990, and when I was on a 10-day week, 3 10-day weeks, what's that? 30 days. I'd take the week off. Friend Craig Terry, he would be training every week. He would never, ever took a week off since I knew the guy. And he would do these long cycles to peak up for meets. Well, the majority of the time, you're not even stimulating any muscle growth when you do that. And then as you get closer to meet, that's the only time you really stimulate stuff. I started training with him. 85 pounds behind him in the deadlift. By 1998, I tied him on everything. I was tying him with triple at 705. I actually doubled 730. And at that point in time, he never doubled 730. I mean, of course, I tore my rotator cuff. When I took time off, he got a little better, right? But in a 5-year period, his 705 only went up 2 reps. All right. If I would have kept training, I would have been well over 800 pounds, because training with high intensity and making sure that you recuperate, your body can get strong extremely fast. All right. So anyways, that's kind of my discussion today. I think Mike Israetel is wrong in regards to Mike Mentzer. I think sometimes he's just trying to be a little too much of an intellectual. All right. And you got to understand, just because he has a degree, right, he has a PhD, that doesn't mean it's actually science. Science is where independent scientists perform the same task and come up with the same answer. So I think a lot of stuff that Mike's putting out there is just his actual personal opinion. It has nothing to do with real science. All right. So anyways, like I said, this is number 2. I'm going to keep putting stuff out every week, and hopefully you guys will actually enjoy learning how to train and not train. You don't want to have to train a lot. So I don't know if people want to train 6 days a week. Why do you want to train 6 days a week if you do it 2 days a week? Don't people have jobs? Don't people have families? I mean, what are people doing that they got time to train 6 days a week? I know I don't. That's why I've consolidated to 2 days, and it works out perfect. So there's nothing on me that I can bent row 500 pounds. All right. So I'm telling you, you can get strong, and you can do it with a lot less effort than what Mike Israetel is putting out there. Anyways, thank you all. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video.